Okay, hold on. Hello, Laura Victoria Ward, Inner Outer Space Harmony, and I am here with a Zoom class. So I'm talking about how we land with our perception and how we either reach out with our perception or allow it to come to us. And I think and in Laban terms, we might call this direct or even indirect. Although in a sense, those are both attending outward. That would be indirect or direct space effort. And it's not geometric space, it's the dynamic quality of the movement. So if I'm letting something come into my eyes, I'm just taking in what's there. There's a different feeling in my whole system of my body, as opposed to if I'm looking for something and my energy is doing this, right? If it's going out or if it's coming in. So just thinking about that, and that same thing can happen with our ears. Like we could be taking in the sound, or we could trying to hear, listening to hear. And I think the same thing can happen with touch, right? And I feel like as far as touch is concerned and sort of kinesthetic awareness and spatial awareness, we tend to be pretty base as a culture. Not people who are necessarily in embodiment. I think people in embodiment are much more fine-tuned and refined in terms of how they're taking things in. But as far as the general public, like our words embodiment, I'm just going to mute everybody. Hello, folks who are just arriving. Or maybe Cassie can do it. I got it. Okay, you're all muted. So I'm talking about the senses and allowing things to come to us, or if we're reaching out for things. And taking time with that. I think the biggest thing with the embodiment is giving yourself time to come in and land and feel and sense and process a little bit. And I think that's a thing that's hugely missing in our culture. So it's actually something that over this period of the quarantine that I've been trying to do is really pay attention to my focus, attend to my attending. What am I paying attention to? Can I stay on the thread of my attention, or is it doing this? And Anthony told me last night, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I assume it is that, and I think it makes sense, is that women and men have different, it's within the corpus callosum, different capacity for attending. Like men are better at focusing on one thing, and women are better at multitasking and multi-focusing. So I can see that in terms of like hunter-gatherer. Maybe this is not true at all. Maybe it's super true. I do not know. I'm just throwing it out there as something to consider. As we consider how do we attend, how do we focus, what draws us in, and what do we seek? So I think I was going to say something which I totally forgot, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to stick with the focus thing, like and do some like meditative practices that are really on staying with one sensation, one image, although it can change once you're in it, but allowing it to be the focal point. So let's start with that idea. And let's start with it. We're just going to do a quick sort of like sensory meditation. You can do this eyes open or eyes closed. Just first, let's tune into the sensation, our interoception, our feeling of our breath, our feeling of our heartbeat, the feeling of the maybe hunger, thirst, the things that we can sense from within our body that we're like, oh, satisfaction. I just ate. I'm not hungry. I feel full. So just tuning into the interoception, maybe you can feel your heartbeat. Maybe you can feel your pulse. Maybe you can hear it. So how is that coming online for you? Closing your eyes if that's comfortable. And feeling the inner sensations of your body. And then attending to, as you're noticing the inner sensations, are you noticing it in a global way or in a sort of pinpointed way? One area or the whole thing? So let's just do the body scan with the internal sensations. So maybe starting from your feet, feeling your feet on the floor, but feeling the interior of your foot, feeling the bones. Maybe you can move them a little bit to sense that, feeling the bones, feeling the fascia, the sort of fat pads, the skin, the movement, the possibility of your foot connected to the floor. And from that, letting it move up through your ankles. I'm going to do this kind of quickly just so that we can get on with it. Through your ankles, calves, shins, lower leg, through your knees, quads, hamstrings, inner outer thighs, all the way up into your pelvis. And let's just, since I think most of us are sitting, Lindsay's not, but maybe you can still feel it. Sense our weightedness in our pelvis. Sense your groundedness through your pelvis, feeling your sit bones or feeling the heavy bowl quality of your pelvis. The aliveness of your pelvis. And always feel free to add a little bit of micro movement so that you can sense more easily if that helps. And let's move it up the spine. So feeling maybe all the organs of the intestines moving into the stomach, all those things, spleen, whatever, your liver, anything that comes to mind, your kidneys, starting to bring your awareness into that whole sort of mid-torso area of organs. And maybe you feel your muscles on the, the container, or the muscles within, like your psoas. Maybe you're feeling those things. Feeling the big bony structure of your pelvis up through your spine towards your rib cage. And within that, your lungs, your heart. Feeling the relationship of your lungs and heart. Lungs, the heart is nestled within the area of the lungs. So within the rib cage, close by. They are nestled right next to each other. And letting that move out to your arms, through your arms, elbows, forearms. We're going fast, fingertips, palms of hands, feeling surfaces and feeling interior, feeling bones, tendons, fascia. And then the movement of like your nervous system through all of that. So there's lots of stuff to think of. And if you stick on one idea, feel free to stay there and just ignore me for a little while. So feel free to be where you are in this exploration. Coming up through the sort of idea of the diaphragm, of the collarbones and scapula around your neck, that sort of yoke up into your neck, jaw, head. Feeling your brain squishing around in there, feeling the cavity of your sinuses, and then feeling your eyes like these big, juicy, wet balls, and let them move around a little bit. As soon as my awareness comes into my eyes, I start to feel my back space, and then I start to feel the inner part of my face sort of relax and drop down. So that's my experience of it. Yours might be different. But the place I want us to end is in our mouth. And what I want you to do in your mouth is just allow your tongue to take a little exploration inside of your mouth. So feeling the soft palate, the teeth maybe coming out of your teeth towards your lips. Maybe you start to masticate more, if your mouth starts to water as that happens, maybe not. And then from that place, starting to feel your mandibular joint, so your jaw. And you could take your hands up and just touch that if that feels like an interesting thing to feel from the outside. So we're starting to bring in the awareness of the touch. So I'm moving quickly because I want to get into space, and I also want to play a little bit more with the senses before this ends. And I know we're just going at hyperspace. So letting that go, and then coming into your breathing through your nose, if that's possible. And feeling the air go in, and just noticing if there's any smell, if you can smell anything. Is anything coming into your nostrils and smell? Feeling the air go in and out and feeling the tiny little hairs in there as they move the skin on the inside of your nostrils, letting that air moving through awaken the aliveness of those tiny little hairs in your nose, filtering the air as it comes in. And just exhaling in whatever easy way feels good to you. And then lastly, just coming into the sound, hearing my voice, maybe your computer's making sound, the sounds around you, the house sounds, the neighborhood sounds. And from there, we're going to go into making sound. So we're going to do it with our mouth closed, and you can open your eyes if you want, or you can keep them closed if you're happy in there. And the making sound is going to be like a and you're going to let your mouth kind of open and close on the inside and just feel and hear the sound of that. So it's almost like may create sort of overtone feeling. So my tongue is kind of squishing around in there and I'm just sort of humming, but I'm making this like overtone. As I move my mouth, it starts to make different sounds inside my head. So letting us play with that sound of and I feel like I can kind of move the sound around toward the back of my tongue, widen it out, and then move it forward. And I'm going with kind of a lower sound in my register instead of that's going to vibrate the tissue up here. If I take it lower, it's going to work a little lower in the tissue in my body. So playing with the lower sound, like and it's almost like you're chewing the sound. You're letting it kind of move around and like think of like snowdrifts or sand dunes as that sound is moving through there, creating shape and form. You can put your hands anywhere on your body if that's helpful, on your belly or on your chest. See if you can feel, we've talked so much about space and all of you have been here enough to think about feeling how the sound is moving in space. How is that moving within you as you move your mouth? What space, what forms is it moving within? And of course, taking resting breaths anytime you need them. So if it feels like a lot of effort to make sound, then just take a few resting breaths and listen to mine. Do it just for 1 or 2 more breaths. Good, and then coming back in, and let's just come together and just a quick check-in on, I know that was kind of a lot of information and I tend to overpack too many things that you don't get so much chance, but this is more to give you the stuff, the material for you to then explore and play with on your own, just ideas. Anyone have anything that they noticed with that? I know it takes you kind of in, so maybe it's not the most verbal time. No, Dawn, go ahead.
I felt the sound change with vertical and horizontal, and I felt some of that dimensionality. I did some playing with the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, but I never really used my tongue to push sound around before. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, I would say that that exercise was like more continuum with a little bit of Laban thrown in, like the ideas behind it. So, and I just feel like those two things really need each other because one's just to this and the other one's to this, right? We need both of those things. We need this balance of that heavy form and then the super freedom, formless, to like have the juiciness. So anybody else notice anything? You're good? Okay. All right, so we're gonna play with the cube, and you've all been here. And so I wanna play with the cube with these, but first I want to just in your space, we're gonna play with it with central and peripheral pathways. So a peripheral pathway, let's just play with central pathways, and they can go anywhere. So you're just gonna go from your center out to the edge in any direction. So it's a little spatial warm up that doesn't have to involve the cube in any way, but just, and you can use one arm, you can use two arms, you can use a leg, but you're just going from the center out and you're coming back in through a central pathway. So you're reaching out and coming back, or reaching out and coming back, and trying to avoid the periphery other than just to touch the edge and then come back in. Touching the edge and coming back in. Maybe all, it wants to happen in a bunch of different ways. And start to really let your space open up so that you're finding your back space. You can poke yourself, poking out into it, poking it, stabbing it, however feels interesting, letting your effort life sort of arrive as well, so that there's some, maybe some breath with it. And feels really good for me to use both sides of my body right now. So that's what I'm doing, but maybe it's going to be different. Maybe there's places you really like, and then there's maybe places that you really avoid, or that crossing of the body. Like, are you doing any crossing? Are you crossing midline at all? Are you crossing midline in the back? And so in Laban, it's our hip bones that are keeping the form around us. So if I move my hips, if I'm going to cross in the back, but I move my hips, I haven't crossed in the back. So you have to cross midline. Use just making that one more thing. And now let's play with the periphery. So you're trying not to come in and out of center. You're just scoping these edges of your kinesphere, your realm of possibility, and playing around. You can let your hips go off. They don't have to always face front, just so that you can move more, but letting yourself really find the peripheral pathways around your body, touching those edges. If you're in a big, huge bubble or a big, huge anything, you're just touching the edges, sweeping around, and see if there's places are there different ways to get there? I can go all the way down between my legs to get into the back space. So I can fold over and reach, or I can arch back. Yeah. Oh, that high back on the diagonal stuff. Harder stuff. And now we're gonna let you do both central, do some central spoking, and then peripheral pathways. So you can go out and then find a peripheral, out, peripheral, out, peripheral, or you could come, out and peripheral and in. It reminds me like of a big sort of flamenco dancer skirt, or somebody twirling a Sufi, that out and then letting it periphery around, twirling. Yeah, so a central pathway is coming from the center to the edge. A peripheral pathway is moving along the edge. So if we add these to the cube, instead of going back to center every time, we're going to go around some of the edges. But let's come in and just discuss that for 2 seconds. A 2-second check-in. You're muted, but you might be talking to somebody else, Cassie. Oh, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? With the central and peripheral, are you having preferences? Crossing places you don't go, places you go all the time.
My preferences have switched a lot in the last 4 years, and I used to be very small kinesphere, and I'm really enjoying periphery right now. Yeah.
So you could, periphery could be done in a small kinesphere.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be your reach space. Like I'm in a near reach space and I'm I'm around the periphery. I'm just staying on these outside edges. Or it could be like a mid-reach space or a far reach space. So it doesn't necessarily mean, like I could do peripheral fairly close, but that's nitpicking. That's some nitpicking Laban talk of which I was speaking earlier. So just to say, it's possible.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I like both. I like transitioning. I thought I liked central when I'm crossing, but I like throwing it to the periphery also. They both feel really nice.
Yeah, that's really satisfying. Or like coming, like you could go central and then peripheral, right? You could cross up and down or cross down and like I'm adding more speed and it makes it more fun. What about anybody else? Anyone else want to say anything? It's a gorgeous day here. There's actual sun and it's not freezing out, which is like overjoyed. And I just have to show my assistant. Oh, it's so bright in the sun that you can almost not see him because he has found the sunbeam in the house and has been living in it. There's more than one, there's a lot of sunbeams, but like he's like planted himself in the sun. Okay, I interrupted. Does anybody else want to say anything about those? Anything you noticed about your preferences or lack of them or anything else? Alrighty, let's go on. So we're going to do the cube. So we'll do the cube the way that I've been doing it with you so far, with central pathways first, so we can sort of start to remember what that is. And then we will add the peripheral pathways afterwards. So we're going to start, and I'm going to, do I want to, I was playing with the idea of saying what my space actually is and not yours, but I think I'm going to actually say your space. So we are going to right forward high, crossing to the back, left back low, arm and leg cross. Coming into center, left forward high, opening to the exact diagonal, right back low. Taking it to the back, left back high, right forward low, right back high, left forward low. So one way to remember it is that it's always going to start at the top and then go to the exact opposite. And the first top point is open. The second top point is crossing over. So it's always going to go here to here, then there to there, there to there. It's going to go in order, whichever way it's going, that way or this way. Just a second. So going with, let's do that side a couple of times. Right forward high to left back low. Left forward high to right back low. Left back high to right forward low. I'm starting to add the peripheral. Right back high to left forward low. And let's do it one more time, really going peripherally from space to space now. So it's going to go central and then peripheral, central and peripheral, you'll see. So we go right forward high, central, left back low. We move through the periphery, that edge, to the next one. Left forward high to right back low. We stay along the periphery. We reach out behind ourselves, coming up to that back. Left back high to right forward low. We stay along the periphery. Right back high to left forward low. You got it? So let's do that one more time. We are going right forward high, crossing left back low. Oh, sorry, let me start over again. I'm like looking at the thing, seeing if there's a way that I can get my whole body into it, and I don't know if I can, so you can see my legs, but you can't anyway because they're dark. I'll just back up as far as I can. One more time. right forward high, crossing back, left back low. We stay on the periphery to come up, 2, and we're gonna change our legs. Left forward high, both arms are crossed, 2, right back low. Stay on the periphery, reaching behind, opening up, left back high, right forward low. Taking it to the exact opposite, left back high, right back high, left forward low. Yeah, so I'm doing I have to say the opposite of what it is, which is messing with my head. But it's doable. So one more time. Our central pathway, right forward high, central pathway to left back low. Peripheral pathway, we're coming up, we're trying to keep our hips square, left forward high to right back low. Left back high, right forward low, right back high, left forward low. Yeah, so we're crossing and opening all the time. Let's try it on the left. So we're first gonna do maybe the central version where we're just coming in and out of center. So maybe not, maybe we should just add it. I think, can we add it? Give me the thumbs up, yes, just do it. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna go right into central and peripheral. So we're gonna go left forward high, right back low. Peripheral pathway, right forward high, 2, left back low. Right back high, reaching back there, 2, left forward low. Left back high, 2, right forward low. Oh, I think we lost. Oh yeah, Fabian always has to leave at 12:30. All right, so let's do it again. So here's the exciting thing, and you can't see it that much in here because you don't have a view of my whole body, but it's really going from that point where I am, where I'm going from here up to this one, like gives me a chance to really mobilize my body. So I'm not just standing and taking my arm back, but I'm going from that here. It's my like matrix moment, you know, where you get to lean back as the bullet goes right over you. So that kind of thing, I don't know. That's a helpful like body support level thing I'd like to think about. So let's go again with the left hand. Left forward high, crossing the central pathway, right back low. Peripheral pathway coming along the edge. 2, right forward high, crossing, opening to the back, central pathway, left back low. Staying, matrix moment, leaning back, taking it into the back space, right back high, left forward low, staying along the edge. 2, left back high, right forward low. One more time on the left so that we get just even ourselves out. We have left forward high, right back low, coming up, right forward high, left back low, swooping around, right back high, left forward low, along the edge, left back high, right forward low. Cool. So let's try, it's interesting. Let's try to do this with efforts in the dynamosphere. So we will do the efforts the first time coming back to central, just to remember them. And then we will add them into the crazy version of the central and peripheral. So we're going to float, and then to the opposite, punch. Coming in, glide, opposite, slash. To the back, dab, bring. And then flick, and press. So let's do that on the other side of our body also. I feel like I just need to even that out this way. So other side of the body, float, punch, boom. Coming back in, glide, slash, dab, ring, and flick, press. All right. So I just want to come in and talk to you about this for 1 second. So one of the things that somebody wrote in one of these threads when I posted this version of the cube, so controversial, and that they were talking about going with those effort drives and not going like, okay, I finished my ring and now I'm going into the next thing, but going ring and then letting the ring come back into whatever the next thing is. Oh, you know, so that your effort qualities are shifting in the middle of the thing. So like, let's just say my float punch. We could just play with one diagonal. So like I'm floating up, indirect, sustained, and light. And then I'm still kind of floating down. At some point it starts to change and becomes a punch. So like just feeling the place where the dynamics change. Yeah, so let's play with that for a minute before we try and shift it all around the dynamosphere and those peripheral pathways. So let's float. We're gonna float, light, indirect, and sustain, slowing down. That float is going to come through our body, floating back, and so it starts to switch into a punch. Yeah, same diagonal, same thing, one more time. Light, lightweight, indirect space, sustained time, into the slowly coming back within it, letting it shift into boom, a punch. Yeah, let's try it on the other side. Float. And then bringing it back. Boom. Float. And yeah, let's come in and talk about it because it's I don't know, it's pretty exciting to me. And it's also like how when we become aware of how the dynamics change, it's one thing to add space to our body. But when we start to change dynamics, it's like it's another thing. And while I say, 1 second, I'll get to you. While I say I am not great at effort, I'm not bad at it. I'm just like space is my thing, right? So Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, space is my thing too. So that must be why I'm so comfortable, you know, with you. And I feel like I want to just say that remember that if we're going to then go back from bottom up, that we should be pulling the punch up until we're at our midpoint and then letting it switch to float.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So that we're not forgetting about that piece, right? That seemed like that quarter of our dance, we were like a little bit unconscious of, right? So
totally.
Like,
well, that's
here,
the whole
punch back up to here and then float.
Yeah. If you're moving the efforts and back and forth on this thing. And it's funny because with the punch, I feel like once I've hit the end of the punch, I've kind of blown my wad. I'm not ready to like, I don't want to take it out into, so that's an interesting thing, reversing the direction, right? Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
I'm not cute today, and I know you're recording, but I'm listening. So for those of us who are not Laban, and I am reading on it, but can you just wax on the difference between effort and I'm from more of a somatic release background, so it's very brain bending because I am a release person, and so this is interesting to me to call release and effort the same thing because
they're not.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So here's one way of looking at it right here. So if we have like a thing called the effort graph, which is like up, down, side, forward, backward. If we have that effort graph, like there's my lightweight, there's my strong weight, there's my quick time, there's my sustained time. And if we split that graph in half, we would say that some are the condensing efforts and some are the expanding efforts, or like the more indulging. That's what they call it, indulgent. Like, and some people would say, but this could be very controversial, that like it's the masculine or the feminine, or maybe the yin and the yang is a better, you know, polarity to look at.
I don't, okay, indulging release, to me, it's like last week I just let go of the ball and it fell. Is it different with bodies in regular gravity? It's not landing
Yes.
for me.
So remember that this is a language. This
Okay.
isn't English. It's a
Right.
language of movement. And so it's using the ideas to approximate. So when we talk about the word effort, it's not, I tried really hard, I put in an effort. It's not that at all. It's, I moved with light weight and indirect space, or I moved with bound flow and sustained time. That's moving with effort. It's the quality of the movement. It's the dynamic quality of the movement. And so like if we're looking at a dancer or a person and suddenly something happens and shifts in their effort, we see that. We see change, right? We don't really see what's happening on and on and on and on, but something changes. Our brains are wired to notice when something is changing, you know, because that's when we have to be careful, right? But if things are going along, it's what we're used to. We don't need to pay attention to that. So think of it like that. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else want to say anything about that experience for them, or
with the float punch and adding float as we're coming back, I mean, two things. One, that was like a lot of layers. My brain was really working, but I loved it, and I loved it. But the other thing was like, it really, I don't know, like they were clear anyway, but it clarified it more to go in a split second in a mid movement to a transitioning effort or very different effort. Like it just, yeah, it was,
yeah, I mean,
good. I had a lot of fun with it.
I think we really understand things by polarity. We understand one thing by the opposite of it, right? We understand where we are. So going back and forth between those. And I also think that you can just use the language of float. You don't need to think about any of the Laban stuff. You can just go float. I'm floating. Can I float myself down? And then it starts to change and it's a punch, you know, like, or let's just do it for a second with glide slash. We can do this seated. So gliding is going, so gliding, we're gliding and we're coming from our glide, and then at some point it shifts into a slash, and then we can bring it back and like bring it back up into that glide. But like it requires so much control to shift from like, because I come in and feel like, oh, the slash, I've let it go. How do I come from that let go place into a, oh, very specific place, right? So we're shifting these things. Yeah, go Cassie.
So I'm interested in thinking about the periphery and central. So for example, the glide can feel like I can sense that peripheral or central, but then when I slash, I just want the slash to be peripheral.
Yeah, I don't know how you slash centrally. It has to be. Like that's the nature of it being indirect. It has to have that movement, right?
So there are some affinities for how you're moving through the space based on the efforts.
Yes, that's why the efforts are called affinities and disaffinities, right? Like it doesn't have to be this way, but most likely it's going to be that way.
And like punch seems central. Float could seem either way.
Like how do you punch peripherally? Like it doesn't work.
Wait. So what are the other two? There's float and punch and slash and glide. And what are the other?
Yeah, then so there's float punch, glide slash, dab, ring. And also we want to think of it not just being a gestural, but like a postural dab. And then how do we move that thing that's come to an end into this really strong and like intestinal ringing? And then there's flick and press, you know, and I also feel like when we go from quick time, it's like the effort has been done, right? It's like, and that's the thing about really looking at effort is it's not something that lasts for 4 seconds. It lasts for a split eye second where you go, oh, there was that thing. Maybe it lasts longer, but often it's just quick. Go ahead, Cassie. Oh,
it was just efforting.
Oh, I know. I'm like, are you raising your hand or is that a dab ring? And so let me also say we're mixing a bunch of things here. So like the space stuff, the pathways, the thing, and then the effort. And then there's like the body level, what's doing what? How is it doing it, right? That would be body. And then the shape, Like we could talk about shape, like this is a spoke-like action. This is an arc-like action. So those things are part of shape, which we haven't spent any time talking about here, but it's one of my favorite things about it, about Laban, is the category of shape. So any other questions, or should we play with some more back and forths? Moish.
Yeah, hi. So, you know, I'm feeling still this want to have sometimes us starting from the low and going to the high. You know how you're really good about doing, you know, right side and then left side. I feel that desire quite strong to be able to start low and go high and not just to kind of balance out.
Yeah.
Is that
And the
cool?
thing is, we are like, it's only the first point to the second point that's our starting point, and the idea in our head, right? Because once we're in it, it could just keep going around and it's just bouncing up and down.
Cool.
So think of that as like, and you know what? I got this book that it's my book. This book, it's Choroidics, it's movement. It's a Laban book on space. He was doing all sorts of crazy shit with this. Like it wasn't, you know, he has these few scales. He was exploring all this different stuff and all these different parts. Like, what if my right arm is doing this? And what if my left leg is doing that? So it's like, he was really building this language. And I have to say that we really, even in the program of spending a year learning this material, we did not get into the layering of that of the possibilities of the space, of understanding it. And what I'm really trying to do in terms of the space idea with this is just start to be able to name the points around us. Like, and so even just having names, we can consider them. We can go, oh, that's back middle, that's back high, that's back low, that's left back middle or right back middle. If I cross back, like think about that. Where do we get that? In yoga, we get those spirals where we get into that back space. But there's not a lot of stuff where we get our opposite body crossing. We get contralateral movement where we're really crossing in the back space. Yeah, Dawn.
I love doing this, and I liked thinking about, first of all, I love thinking about the infinities and the planes and how they all go together to create these action drives. I find that really fun, even though it's
Right.
restricted. Yeah. And I'm going to finish. And I really enjoyed the transitioning of one to the other and thinking about, I kind of chose to transition one element at a time. Although you could just kind of generally transition because you would do it anyway. But I was thinking, okay, first I'm going to do space. Okay. And then I'm going to do a little bit of weight. And then I'm going to do time. That was, and then the third thing I wanted to say is when you're talking about effort, you know, like not being how hard you work, there's this really great film called Bobby Jean. I'll put it in the chat. It's just interesting. It's a woman. She used to dance with the Bathsheba Dance Company in Israel, and then she escaped. That's not really the right way to say it.
Oh, I know I know, and
You
she
know that movie?
her own thing. I've seen parts of it.
There's a documentary, and in it she makes a piece about effort, and she masturbates to orgasm in the performance. I've never seen anything quite like it. It was touching because the documentary kind of walks her through the creation of this piece, and then you watch the performance. It's just really stunning. Yeah, it's really stunning. So I'll put it in the chat. Effort, not in the Laban.
Talk about embodied sexuality.
No,
yeah, it was a big thing for her to decide whether or not to leave or what to do, like that. Yeah.
Right. She goes through that, and then she goes through, and she takes her mother with her to shop for this thing that she wants to masturbate on. She had a very specific object in mind that she knew that she wanted to work with, and she took her mother with her to shop.
That's some healing, some feminine like ancestral energies, right? Jeez Louise.
This is my boyfriend Pasta.
This is my boyfriend Pasta. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's play some more with the dynamics. I just want to name one more thing because Dawn mentioned it, and those are drives. So when we take efforts and we cluster them together, we're not just doing lightweight, we're doing lightweight and quick time or something else. Then they're either states. If it's a combination of 2 efforts, it's a state. If it's a combination of 3 efforts, it's a drive. And these drives, so there's 4 effort factors, and there are or is it elements with factors? I've gotten my factors and elements. There's either, anyway, I think there's 4 elements, 8 factors. So the effort element of weight has the 2 factors of light and strong. The effort element of effort, space effort, has 2 factors, indirect and direct. Time, quick and sustained. And the last one is flow. And in these action drives, we're not talking about flow, just to throw that out there. So there are other drives. There's like a spell drive, a passion drive, and a vision drive that are like, we take out some other effort element, which are super fun. In love with those, in love with them. All right, let's try playing with this, oops, kitty. I'm sorry, the kitty got kicked. He wasn't in his sunspot. All right, so let's play with a different one, and let's figure out what the diagonal we're gonna play with, and we can start at the bottom. So we'll reverse it. So instead of going dab ring, let's go ring dab ring dab. So we're gonna start with our ring. It's open. We'll move this down slightly. Buddy, can you just not be right in the middle of things? The cat obviously can't. We're opening. Oh, let's go to the left side first. So opening to the left, we're in an open space, we're ringing, and we're gonna ring our way back and start to change the effort as it comes up. We cross and we have a dab. Let that dab, that light, direct, and quick move into a sustained ringing our way down. Just seeing how that effort unwinds, unfolds, and starts to shift. And then when you're ready, try it on the other side. So other side, ringing, moving through. Try to get that ringing and that dab into your whole body. So it's whole body, indirect, strong and sustained. Letting it unfurl, crossing. Yeah, then shake it out for a second. Then let's just do the last one, and then we'll come back and talk for a second and finish it off. So the last one we'll do dab and ring. Dab and press. We'll start on the left side again. So, and let's start with dab, and then we'll bring it back up. So going from sorry, I'm saying all the wrong words. Flick, press, flick, press. Yeah, my brain is like, it's because my cat is down here trying to have a war with me on the floor. So I'm trying to do this. Where's that female corpus callosum capacity for all this multitasking now? Flick, which is light, indirect, and quick. Boom, into press. Flick. When does the strength come in? Into your press. Bringing it back. Back and forth a few times. When you're ready, switch it to the other side. Do you have the same access to effort on the 2 sides? Good, and then bringing it all together. And just one more thing to add to this, and that is that the screen tends to diminish effort. So one reason why, dance is really meant to be a live art and an experience where we can hear and feel each other's breath in the room, is that part of the dynamic quality just doesn't read through the screen. Maybe people have gotten better at filming stuff now, but still, it's not the same. Our eyes don't have the same relationship to seeing. Anyway, that's just one of my things about seeing dance. Like if you see a dance on a screen, you can see every single dancer on that stage. If you're looking at a stage, you can't watch every dancer at the same time. There's different things. So Let's come in and just discuss that. Questions, comments, concerns. What did you notice, Dawn?
When you go from in the cube from the action drive to action drive, they're pretty intensely different. In some cases, opposite. And sometimes what I like to do is transition from an action drive to an action drive to work on the efforts. Transition from an action drive to an action drive that has more in common. It's like it's a lot to change from light, quick, and indirect to strong. It's just, everything is the opposite. So it's a lot. So going from press to glide, you then press to glide. But I did find it easier to transition from press to flick than I did from flick to press. But it's fascinating, really.
It just makes me immediately think about a float into a glide. Like, where does that change, right? Like,
that's a nice
at
transition.
midline.
Yeah, that's an easy transition. It's a pleasurable transition. I agree with that.
Anyone else? How about you, Virginia and Quentin? You guys have been kind of quiet, although I've seen some affirmatives on the Virginia side of things. Thank you.
Well, I came in late and it was helpful. I'm gonna watch the YouTube as well, but it was helpful that you posted that video of you and your friend in the snow. That was really helpful that you posted that. And it's like a whole other level now with the effort. It's like, I was just getting the cube. I have to add all this now, but I love it. I love it. I really do. And for me, the most important thing.
Yes, that was awesome. Another disembodied voice loves snow.
Okay, Quentin, you're unmuted. Go ahead, and then whoever else after Quentin.
For when you started out earlier, I forgot. I think you mentioned it. You mentioned interoception.
Yeah.
If it for me, I noticed that when I did different efforts. Well, first of all, the first time when we went in certain directions, it felt like, I don't know if you mentioned the word edge or not, but it felt like for me, when I went to a certain space or a certain direction, different planes, I could feel the interoception, like almost filling my body like water, or like the space of the body filling up or opening up. And noticing when you did other things, when you were talking about making things lighter, the interoception seemed concentrated in the hand, but it was different in the rest of the arm. And then also in making the exchange to a punch, the interoception changed. And it felt like almost like the interoception, especially with the movement, it felt more, I had more access to it than when I just do that practice just from sort of a sitting meditation. It felt much more anchored from the external movement, almost opening up space into the body, like filling up space in the body. But the other thing is that it also, I felt like the interoception was communicating in a way where it was telling me how to make a move or how to go into another move. Like if you hadn't said anything, if you had said, let's use the inner space to tell us individually or collectively where to go next. That to me was something kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That I was playing with.
That's awesome. That's super excellent. And I feel like that really is that marriage of your own internal intelligence and the curiosity of the system to discover itself, not to be told it's like this, it's like that. And I feel like that's in the beginning, I was talking a little bit about this difference and this balance of continuum and Laban. And Laban's like an analytic theory with major structure. And continuum is an inquiry into what's happening. Maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. Maybe today my right forward high really feels good here. Maybe tomorrow it's just a little bit over. It's like it gives more space on the one hand. So that's why I like the inner outer space where we're dealing with these different things. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah, Michael.
Just wanted to say that for me, I was working with, when doing the quick efforts, I do them multiple times in the in and the out. And then that feels like honoring to me. So, dab, 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 or flick, 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 and then, so I'm dabbing, dabbing, and then I'm, going into a sustained effort. And that feels like something I just wanted to offer in case anyone else wants to explore playing with, rather than just a single dab and then not actually really dabbing to get back, maybe, but yeah. Trying multiple ones of those in and out, and that feels like there's something there to explore and play with also.
I love that. Thank you. That's a great thing to think about. Also, like when we do something quick versus sustained, we're going to spend so much more time forward. Go ahead, Dawn. Nice to see you. We're going to spend so much more time forward. So yeah. Any other reflections? Michael, where's it all landing with you?
I thought that was really interesting. So that was my the first time I've been here where you've presented the efforts, and that's I just find that a fascinating other dimension to it, because the space, it's in a bit more like impersonal, or it's like regularizing, the bodily experience, and that puts more sort of flesh and bones on it. And there's the temporal dimension, and sort of the felt dimension is more, the orienting to a particular spatial direction has a feeling to it too. So it's not really, I don't know, it's tough to put my finger on what the difference is, but it's nice. It's very interesting. It adds a lot of richness to it. So
yeah, like the space is like the bowl, and then the efforts are like all the flavor. Like they really, and you can spend time with that. And I feel like there's so much in effort. Like if I'm a very highlight person, it could be very difficult to connect to me, or it could be very easy to connect to me, depending, like sometimes just how people present themselves, like I don't know, there's not a lot of, I just don't feel like there's a lot of leaders who are talking like this unless they're ballet teachers. Like, so the embodiment of the ideas within the culture of our world is going to be different. And there are certain things that we immediately respond to or don't respond to. And that, part of all the problems that we're having is because we've only seen one version of what leadership looks like. Yeah. And like now to try and find, well, what are the other possibilities? Like, what if we are? Yeah.
Connecting it to speech is very interesting. Now all day when I hear people talk, I'm going to be like, that was a verbal flick or a verbal slash, a verbal flick, right?
Thank you. More, please. Thank you. More of that, please.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everybody. So fun to have you all, and thanks for coming, and we'll see you again soon. Cassie, are you flagging me down, or is that a goodbye?
It was a goodbye.
Okay.
But I also have, here we can stop recording. I just have one question. Oh wait, I don't want to stop recording. You stop recording.
Wait, do you want me to stop recording, or
yeah,
is the question really okay?